And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Welcome into RBLR Sports. My name is Musab, and another weekend down in the books for some Tampa Bay football. A rather fun and entertaining Sunday for us fans, huh? And here's to a fun episode tonight with my partner in crime, Eureka. Eureka, how we doing this fine evening?
I am doing amazing. I'm still basking in the glow of a dominant victory for our Buccaneers.
So am I, Eureka. What a pleasure it was this Sunday. It was nice. It really was. Beautiful weather up here in Boston where I am right now. And, I just had a nice Sunday. And it was nice to also see a nice win for our Buccaneers, especially after an interesting past weekend we had earlier. But that being said, listeners, if you could do us a favor, and however you're listening to this, whether it be YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, there's probably a follow button, a like button, a subscribe button. But also, we are on social media platforms at RBLR Sports. All right. Chapter 15 has been completed in the Buccaneers book, and we got a lot to go over. But first, overall thoughts, Eureka. You woke up Monday morning with that classic post-game win smile. You're walking down the road, and someone asks you, well, how did you think we did, Eureka?
Look, we all expected. We had our special guest Carter Brantley on, and even he expected this to be a double-digit victory. I had gone on to the Across the Pond Sports podcast, and I also expected this to be a dominant victory for the Buccaneers. And what do you know? We went out there. We had a get-right game against an opponent that we love to see whenever we need to get right, and that's exactly what they did. So happy and still happy. And all the questions that we had, they got answered, and it was good to see we're going to get into all this, but it was just a well-rounded effort from everybody.
I'm right there with you. I really am. But I also want to say that, at least for me, Eureka, I'm thinking, well, at the end of the day, all I really want is the win, and that's all I really care for. We've had some ups and downs this season, and we've had some interesting performances against a variety of teams. So I really didn't know exactly what to specifically expect from this game. But then again, ideally, this is exactly what I wanted, and that's what they gave us. We were unstoppable, especially on the defense. I mean, we're gonna dig deep into it, but you know, honestly, just the fact that they had to alternate back and forth, they just couldn't get it in the end zone at all. And even without several of his primary weapons, Eureka, Brady still carved up the Panthers defense. So I was really happy to see a win like that.
Absolutely. Where do you want to start talking about what was good in this game? I mean, there's so much to get to. Where would you like to start?
I have to just give a big, huge shout out to our Bucs defense, every single one of them. I mean, this was expected the way I see it. They performed quite well against the Saints, and they were fired up after a loss like that, after all that blood, sweat, and tears, all that hard work they put in. Unfortunately, they still ended up with the loss, but they said, you know what, I don't care who it is and who's in front of us now. We pummeling them, we running them over. That's what they did. Darnold and Newton both struggled. It was a sack party. We racked up 7 sacks from different kind of players. Really nice seeing. I want to give a big shout out to William Golston. I've been seeing a lot more action, more than ever this season from him. Real nice seeing, some guy like him. Kind of in the past, there's, a lot of other people we've been, chit-chattering about. D. White, David, JPP, Sue. But I want to give a little love to Golston. But, even Whitehead, the DBs, all of it together, it was a mess for the Panthers offense. And I also do want to say that the Panthers, they're going to go exactly, where, the O-line and injuries allow it to, okay? And that's kind of where it happened. Injuries / COVID, it took out a few players, this or that. I mean, they're also not hot, and then McCaffrey's out. And then with the weak O-line like that, it's going to be a feast for us. So, as mentioned before, between you and I, we both said this was kind of expected. We We beat the crap out of a bad team,
Yeah.
and that's really all there is to it. At least for our defense, it was a show.
Again, I think you hit the nail on the head in the beginning when you said you sometimes we play down to the level of our competition, and sometimes we throw out a 9-0 loss against a team that we shouldn't be losing to. So you don't know if they're going to show up and be the Yuccaneers, and would we see Brady have a bad performance 2 weeks in a row? Would we see bad offensive performance, dropping balls, not being able to run? I think that if we're sticking to defense, because you said defense first, absolutely. I want to start with Jordan Whitehead. I thought he had a phenomenal game. I believe it's just big plays on blitzes. He forces a sack to set the tone early in the game. Just solid hits all game. He led the team in tackles and was just this close to getting an interception. But he had 3 pass deflections on the day. And just overall with the defensive backs, I think they were always watching Cam Newton and Darnold. They picked off Cam Newton on a little lob pass that was a bad decision from a quarterback, and you need to capitalize on mistakes from the quarterback. I think the defensive backs made great open field tackles that would have extended drives. They forced a lot of third downs with good tackling. And, Darnold had one really good kind of schoolyard broken play that turned into a huge pass that the DBs kind of, were covering one guy and another guy got free, and it turned into a really big play. But ultimately, that only led to a field goal, so it wasn't like it shot him in the foot. Maybe there were a few plays that a better team would have made. There was a big touchdown that a defensive back missed a guy coming out of the backfield. Oh, okay. But all in all, a solid effort with a few defensive backs that are down from injury and COVID. We had our own lumps to go on that front, but overall, I thought they were very, very good. You had brought up that Darnold and Newton had both struggled. I think that's because the defense was very patient with a lot of the Cam Newton option quarterback run plays. In the first quarter, it was a little more effective, but they shut that down. Once they kind of had seen what the Panthers' game plan was going to be, they were able to snuff it out. And you said the sack party. Okay. Let's talk about this. William Golston, first and foremost, shutting me up. And I love to say that when I say something and I'm saying, I don't know, there's a question mark, and they kick butt, I'm the happiest guy in the world to tell somebody that I am eating crow, man. And William Golston, a question mark, he's so old and up and down, and what's he going to do? Well, this game he showed up. Who else showed up? Kevin Mitner, Shaq Barrett, Vita Vea, Anthony Nelson, and Steve McClendon. Even these guys are getting in on the sack party. 7 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, 11 quarterback hits on the day. I'm just going on and on because I could talk for another 30 minutes about how amazing this defense was, but I'm sure we have more things to talk about, Musab.
They have no Eureka. They have been. They absolutely have been. Let me also just say this, Eureka. All right, they gave up 2 field goals this past game, and then before that it was just 3 field goals against the Saints. Yeah. All right, we've been on fire. All right, the Panthers had no excuse to not be coming at our throats. All right, they're a huge underdog. They were coming in at us, to the best of their ability, but they couldn't deliver at all. Yeah. We were dominating the whole time. And just a little fun stat of the night. This marks the 3rd time in the Buccaneers' history, all right, that the Bucs have actually held consecutive opponents without a touchdown. Wow. So right now our defense is looking mad hot, and I would love to be talking about them too as well for 30 minutes to an hour or 5 hours. But on to the next point, though, Eureka. Offense and defense, but I want to say a little bit more on the offense just because of what's kind of going on with the COVID injury situation on our offensive side, and that is the depth pieces who stepped up this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you had Antonio Brown was a guy who came in, and he's the number one target with the injuries and the people that we have out. But you're talking just even on the defensive side of the ball. It's Grant Stewards. The Cockrells and KJ Britts and like Steve McClendon's and these guys that we have not seen really light up the defensive side. But on the offensive side, you had guys were calling up from the practice squad making plays. You had, man, look, here's someone that I want to talk about. We'll talk about Hofstrichter, the punter, the guy who comes in, off the street. We have Pinion is hurt, and here's a guy who handles kickoffs and punts, and he has 3 punts on the day. Hopefully we weren't going to have a lot of punts, but he nailed all 3 of his punts. He had a 45 as a long, and he got one inside the 20. So just amazing job all the way around. We had who was the guy that was returning? Barner. Barner comes in for Jalen Darden, who's on COVID list, and he hits 5 punt returns. Keeps the ball. He doesn't fumble it. Just doing a great job. So you talk about depth pieces. It was in all 3 phases of the game that next man up applied.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm the Panthers, I'm thinking, ooh, okay, maybe we can take advantage of these depth pieces, or maybe everyone's thinking how actually good are these people? And the way I see it is, there's obviously this expectation. All right, look, we're already playing a bad team, so even if you do kind of mess up, it's not like we're gonna, like we're gonna kill you or something. But listen, it's simple. All right, you should be doing an okay job, okay to like / amazing job. All right. So that's what they did. No one really kind of messed up at all with the depth pieces. Not that I was really kind of nitpicking out that specifically, but everyone stepped up to the plate. And at least for me, I was seeing that more on the offense, or I was paying more attention to that on the offense. I mean, look, what Keyshawn Vaughn with that 55-yard touchdown, and then, I mean, the man of the hour, the man of the show, Mr. Chit Chatter. Everyone's been, yip yapping about him for a variety of reasons, Mr. Antonio Brown. I mean, just everyone, honestly, even Cyril Grayson.
Yep.
The fact that everyone was able to kind of deliver, look, Tampa Bay was without 3 of their like key offensive stars. Okay, with Evans, no Godwin, all right, no playoff Lenny. But hey, listen, we still had Antonio Brown, we still had our backups. I guess it showed me that, okay, listen, maybe as long as our O-line stays super healthy, all right, this is what it comes down to. I said that earlier, Eureka, about the Panthers' kind of destiny, and I'm going to say the same thing about our Buccaneers, which is this team is going to go where our O-line and injuries allow it to.
Yeah.
If Brady is protected, then we can carve up anyone. We really can. So that's the way I see it, at least with all these depth pieces. And it's also, I guess this was the time to finally see it. Maybe this was not something I guess anyone was really expected that, oh, wow, we're throwing in like these kind of guys towards the end of the season. Mm-hmm. Not that it's just like, oh, we got this kind of locked in the bag or whatever, but just because of circumstances. This is not something that we were like, oh, yeah, let's just have fun and throw these guys in. No, this was like, oh, okay. Well, hey, listen, we're doing well this season, but right now circumstances, we're going to have to, kind of call up these backups to step up to the plate and start for us and stuff like that. So, real happy with their performance. So, I mean, that's really all there is, at least the way I see it for me. Anything else you wanted to add on?
Yeah, well, I said you had mentioned the O-line, and I think if we can kind of move, I want to talk about the O-line. I mean, all the defensive stats that I said about the sacks and the QB hits and the tackles for losses and all this stuff, we just didn't have that on our side of the ball. Our O-line gave up a grand total of 0 sacks. They gave up 6 tackles for loss. That includes running plays and things like that. And only 2 times did someone record a hit on Tom Brady, twice. And we know that last week we saw a team get in Tom Brady's grill, put him on the ground, that's what you have to do to rattle the GOAT, okay? he can't throw the ball if he's on the ground, and that's what you have to do against him. When you have an offensive line that gives up 0 sacks, 2 quarterback hits, you're just begging for Tom Brady to carve you up. But even when he doesn't have all the top weapons, you know what they did? They actually dominated the run game, and that's kind of what I really want to talk about. Is I had said in the preview that the Panthers were ripe. The running back room was my Mr. Fantasy. I figured whoever they were going to give the ball to was going to have a great game. And we had 2 players with great games. And it's just in time for fantasy football playoffs. If you had Ronald Jones or Keshawn Vaughn, you scored some points because the run game had over 159 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. The O-line was just moving the pile. And because of that, Keshawn Vaughn, 7 carries, 70 yards, a touchdown. 55 of that comes from a huge beast mode play that you had alluded to earlier to score the first touchdown of the game and set the tone. Keshawn Vaughn hits a stiff arm, hits some jukes, turns on the afterburners, just let's go. Ronald Jones, though, conversely, 20 carries, 65 yards, and a touchdown. He was the club that was used to bludgeon the Panthers in short yardage, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, keeping us on schedule, moving the chains the entire game. It was a sight to see, and it's kind of the football that we don't see a lot of, but because of the circumstances, like you said, we played more of a jumbo style, and the O-line just dominating allowed the play calling to incorporate play action in the mix. And with all these injuries, we were able to make do with what we had. I think that the offensive line really, really stepped up to play, and it allowed Brady and the rest of the gang to elevate their play. And all in all, that's why you're going to see Tom Brady sitting back in the pocket and able to deliver the ball to whoever he wanted to. So I've been talking a lot about the O-line and the run game. What are your thoughts on those topics?
I mean, listen, yeah, to all of our fans out there, you better be giving some love to our O-line as well, because it makes a big difference. It really does. Listen, I mean, you look, Eureka, you look at it on the stat sheet, you're looking at the kind of defensive performance. Listen, we had a similar amount of total tackles, or a similar amount of solo tackles, or even tackles for loss. We had 8, they had 6. Sure. But now when we're looking at sacks, and if you just look at that now we're looking, okay,
yeah.
Oh wow, ooh, oh snap, oh they got 0 and we got 7. Oh wow. If I'm just looking at that, I'm not even looking at the score. I'm thinking, okay, well, I'll tell you this. I don't know what the Bucs did offensively, but I'll tell you this: I don't think the Panthers did anything. So that's already telling me the Panthers did nothing. All right. So, and then obviously, I mean, you realize, listen, with a guy like Brady, you best believe we racking up points. So, all I gotta see is just the defensive performance, Eureka. That's all I gotta see is the sacks, the solo tackles, the total tackles. I mean, they're gonna have to tackle us. I mean, those are just obvious things. So we're always gonna be kind of similar to those.
Sure.
But
Sure.
yeah, listen, all I gotta see is the defensive stats, and bingo, I already know what kind of game this was. So that's the performance our defense has been, kind of giving us. So I love it, I really do, and that's also the performance that our O-line has been giving us. So that's something to think about when you look at these kind of things, that, oh, wow, no one was able to rack up not a single person. That's not because, oh, okay, oh, wow, Tom Brady or our running backs are so good. No, you can thank the big guys because of that.
Yeah, I mean, it allowed the Panthers to they just kind of sat back. I mean, they played a lot of bend but don't break defense, and I think they really keyed in on Cameron Braid and Gronkowski, and thinking, obviously AB is a weapon, and I'll get to him in just a second. That's going to be the next thing I talk about. But, the Panthers just kind of keyed in on the short yardage, the kind of keeping them, trying to keep Brady with his quick release, game plan, to only getting 4 or 5 yards on a thing. But the guy that really stepped up, one is Tom Brady. He did not repeat his bad game that he had a couple weeks ago, and instead he had a nice safety blanket in Antonio Brown returning. And here, AB, 15 targets, 10 receptions, 101 yards. What a way to come back onto this roster when they absolutely needed him to do that. I think that there were a few times where we were trying to run the ball, or maybe they get a short passing play and it's 2nd and long. We're off schedule. Now it's 2nd and 8, 2nd and 7, things like that. Antonio Brown was there to pick up good yardage, especially on out routes. There were quite a few times that he caught the ball and just took it one step and got out of bounds. He was demoralizing. I mean, number 9, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but like number 9 was on Antonio Brown a couple times in man situations. This was not even fair to him, and I think that they were pointing out that as a matchup, and you would see immediately after getting scorched by AB, they'd put him on someone else. So just good effort all the way around. On the other facet of the offense, the air game, and Antonio Brown led the way with that, and he was I mean, obviously he was the shining example of why he still is close to being a wide receiver 1, and probably would be a wide receiver 1 on quite a number. He would be the number 1 receiver in Carolina, I tell you that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, at least for me, this was something I was really glad to see. If anyone, obviously, I was expecting, all right, hopefully, AB does pretty well. But yeah, it was a wonderful show from him. Honestly, listen, 10 receptions, 101 yards, and I mean, this is exactly what we wanted. We didn't have too many weapons out there. We had to make the best out of it. And the way I see it was like, okay, this is, I guess, all that really Brady needed. Even talking about the running backs, I'm thinking, all right, well, obviously, I mean, they're gonna have to do something. All right, our running game, it's not completely, horrible without, Fournette or anything. We still got Vaughn, we got Jones, okay, and even, I mean, I wanted to see a little bit more at Le'Veon Bell, but that's another story. But I mean, that's really about it. Something, okay, well, I mean, yeah, I guess Vaughn and Jones will, they ought to do something. But I mean, there's only so much our rushing game has been doing this past season. And I'm looking at a receiving core to see, okay, well, listen, we got Brown, Gronkowski, Bray, we got Scotty Miller. Unfortunately, well, he didn't do anything, though, specifically. Yeah. But even, Grayson, all right. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Grayson. I want to give a little quick shout out to Grayson. Honestly, I'm really happy to see that he finally, got a lot more playing time.
Yep.
And yeah, look forward to see what he has for us this upcoming weekend as well. But I mean, just overall, in conclusion, for me, it's real nice seeing people like AB, with an interesting kind of past or story he's had, or just everything that's been going on. Everyone was thinking we're crazy for getting AB, but this is when it pays off, Hey, listen, we want to lock in a win, and he was a big piece for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you nailed the head on that, Ben. These are the cards we were dealt, and this is why we kept AB to be. He might be this really expensive third wide receiver. Well, I don't think anyone envisioned Godwin and Evans going down, but here we are, and we're in a good position still, even with those people being out. So,
and I also want to say, I mean, just with AB, with everyone, just overall, just a quick thing I want to say that I was really happy to see was, listen, I think we did pretty well with what we had, Eureka. I mean, Tom Brady himself, I mean, he picked apart a very horrible defense. Okay, 232 yards, racked up a touchdown. All right. And then with a total of 390 yards. But, and most of those were obviously to Antonio Brown, which was real nice to see. And then I also want to say that something that I actually kind of heard from my buddy was that he was telling me that they were kind of changing the kind of dynamic of the lineup. And what I mean, instead of maybe your traditional, you had like one running back, one tight end, or three wide receivers. They were changing those kind of things up. They're throwing in two tight ends, or maybe they got a running back, and maybe they also got maybe like, someone else back out there with them. Maybe they got a few other wide receivers out there. So they kept on changing these kind of things. I guess this was the kind of game to do that, and that was nice to see that it worked out real well for us. It ought to because we're playing the Panthers, but to kind of conclude the overall performance of this game, when you first asked me, I also would want to add, if you saw me and asked me what did I think, I would say they they exceeded our expectations, Eureka, but whatever expectations I had, they completely met them for sure. And this was as an absolute wonderful show to watch. Just being a Bucks fan after an interesting season, or specifically just that really weird loss, Eureka, against the Saints. This is exactly what our fans needed, and that's what the Buccaneers gave us.
It wasn't all. We've been sitting here for about 25 minutes, just saying how everything was peaches and rainbows and whatever. But I want to hear. I want to hear what you didn't. Was there anything you didn't like about this game? Can we find something that AB or a BA, when he gets back, can yell at somebody over a Zoom call? Is there anything?
At least for me, it's just something that was like, okay, I guess whatever. We'll still rack up the 3 points, but it's just the lack of execution. All right, it's just this is just something for me that I was considering because, hey, listen, playoff time is near, Eureka. All right, playoff time is near, our listeners, and for that reason, the fact that we're just having these random slips continue to pop up, and I find them rather kind of more irresponsible. So, I just wonder what exactly is it that kind of led to these field goals. And hey, shout out to Ryan Sucka, but I'm just thinking. The fact that there were kind of four opportunities like that to pop up, and we weren't able to kind of at least take advantage of one or two of them. It just makes you think, well, obviously there's always room for improvement, or we obviously could have done better. I was super super happy with the game overall, but if there was anything I do have to kind of, specifically pick out, it's probably just that, the lack of execution, or kind of just closing out, because maybe this is just something we need to master right now. This is a weakness that popped up. Maybe something that said, hey, hey, this is, hey, BA, or hey, Buccaneers, this is something to still consider. Because come playoff time, we're gonna need at least one or two of those kind of moments to follow through. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you that there were some points in the first half specifically that the passing game just wasn't completely there. Now, I don't know if that's just them feeling out the defense, trying to see, every coach is going to tell you, like, we're going to take what they give us. So you need to see, how do they do in this situation? How does the defense react to this situation? So the passing game, though, is, other than Antonio Brown, no one really got it going for most of the first half. There were spots where guys were running routes too close to each other. Brady's just looking at these guys like, what are we doing? Having to settle for short intermediate routes. Some of that was because of what the defense gave us, but some of that was guys just weren't getting open, or it was taking a little too long to get in their sets. So there's a little bit of consternation, but really, I guess the big thing I wanted to talk about in terms of execution leading to field goals is red zone offense. Now, part of that is, this is like, with an asterisk, because, Tom Brady just went through the longest stretch of his career. I might be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure it's one of the longest stretches, if not the longest stretch, where he was not in the red zone for a single play. Because they've been scoring from 45, 50 yards away. They've been having these crazy good stretches where they haven't had to score inside the 20-yard line. So we finally got a shot in the red zone, and we started calling, like, we had some trickery. There was offensive linemen out as tight ends, and there was like trickery with the like Tom Brady really selling the play action, like ducking on the ball and oh no, I really have the ball, and then throwing it away, or I mean, I get having to. It's the hardest place in the whole field to score, but it was kind of in the beginning of the game anyway. It was just like a little bit of extra trickery or weird plays, or trying to just, instead of just doing what they ended up doing the rest of the game, which is just, hey, let's just pound the rock, shove it down their throat, and then get a few passing plays here and there on top of that. So if they would have, I mean, maybe if they would have just tried to run it a little bit more effectively in the red zone, this wouldn't be a thing. But again, Musab, man, I'm nitpicking here on this kind of stuff. It just was the one or two areas that weren't crystal or platinum level play from the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I mean, along with that, what also wasn't kind of platinum was just the fact that we racked up like 50 yards. Correct me if I'm wrong. We racked up about like 50 yards in penalties. And again, that's just something else to consider. Both of these things for me, Eureka, are the only two things that I really had to think about, or at least for our kind of little bad side. And these two things are kind of just little mini wake up calls saying, hey, hey, listen. All right, sure, it was a beautiful game. Sure, everything worked out, but a famous man once said, Eureka Wheeler once said that, everything should be platinum level, and if it isn't, then we should call it out. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. So these two little things are just, hey, listen, all right, we got to work on the execution, but also these penalties, all right? Some of them were a little more silly than others, but this is just something just to be careful about. Or maybe just something, I guess, to keep them a little humble, saying, hey, great game, phenomenal. We demolished them as we should have, but hey, there's always room for improvement, and this is what the room is: penalties and lack of execution. What do you think?
Well, you know me. I'm going to always say the little things matter, and the little things include jumping off sides, having offensive pass interference, roughing the passer. Even when you're just demolishing another team in the playoffs, those are the little things that are going to matter whether or not we're going to move on to the next round or not. So, look, nothing bit us in the backside in terms of penalties in the long run. However, you definitely don't want to be stupid when you can control penalties. That's one thing you can obviously control and keep under wraps, and you're going to need to do that. Look, this was the Carolina Panthers. We're going to play them in 2 weeks, and we'll see how that goes. We'll get into next week's opponent, the Jets, but this is the time for us to play good football and do the little things correctly so we blow out these bad teams and stay healthy and not have to have these dog fights before the real dog fights start happening in the playoffs. So we were playing a team that was not as good as us, and I think that I would have loved to see every single facet of the game be as dominating as each other. But you brought up penalties. I thought it was a good thing to look at, and you're right. They should have been better. But again, it didn't bite us in the butt, so hey, you know what? We got the win. Would I have loved a shutout with no penalties? Sure. But hey, you know what? You can't win them all, I guess.
It happens. It is what it is. And hey, on the bright side, Eureka, at least compared to other weeks, I feel like this is probably the least amount of bad things we've had to say about our Buccaneers.
Yeah.
And we're going to make a quick little 180 again. And shout out to our Buccaneers for claiming the NFC South title. Eureka, this is...
How do we go this long without saying that? NFC South champions, baby!
Yes, sir. The time is coming. And believe me, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it is, I think, since 2007. I think that was the last time, right?
Correct, yeah.
Right. So, listeners, 2007 was a long time ago, so this is a quite historical moment for us, and makes you think. I don't know if we could have had done this without the legendary, the one and only Bruce Arians. Oh, you thought I was gonna say Tom? Well, also Tom Brady as well.
I thought you were going to throw another Ryan Suckup goat shot in there.
Well, I'll also throw in another Ryan, and that's Ryan Griffin for helping our buddy out there with the after party
Attaboy.
kind of activities.
Yeah, man, I love it. The dream is still alive. We can still have at least some sort of home field advantage in the playoffs. The schedule's right, and it's time for us to pounce on another bad team this week.
Right on. I mean, yeah, we are. I believe we are still on pace for the number 2 seed, and I mean, yeah. Hey, listen, we're fired up. We looking mad good right now. We got 2 more games left, and just with everything that's going on, always hoping for the best. With the whole kind of COVID and injuries and everything like that. So, hey, listen. At least for me, Eureka, I'm taking it game by game. I'm staying mad jolly after a win like that, and I think we're gonna be mad jolly this upcoming weekend against our Jets, which we are about to dig deep into.
Yeah.
But before that, Eureka, I gotta ask you the last thing I want to regarding this game against the Panthers, which is what was your RBLR moment?
My RBLR moment was seeing a guy that you have brought up a couple times in the show. That is a Cyril Grayson. This is a dude who came up from the practice squad, former All-American sprinter. He had a huge 62-yard play at the end of the first half, kind of like when the passing game hadn't been doing much. Well, here he goes. Here's Cyril Grayson. And because of that, he earned more targets in the second. And I also think that he definitely made them think about him on the field. I mean, here's a guy who I don't know how much tape they had on him. I don't know how much of the game plan was against Cyril Grayson, but once he got on the field and started doing some damage, yeah, he only got 3 targets, but he got 3 receptions and 81 yards on those 3 targets. So even when he was on the field and not getting the ball, I guarantee you they were putting someone on him and using and effectively taking away that part of the field for the Bucs to do good things, even when he wasn't getting the ball.
We made the best out of it and with everyone, and I mean, a big shout out to Grayson as well. I mean, he's definitely up there for sure for my RBLR moment. But hey, listen, I mentioned him before, and I want to say him again. And that's Mr. William Golston again for me. This guy just between the listeners and you, Eureka, this is just not someone I ever really just thought about that much. I said, hey, okay, hey, just another one of the guys on the D line. All right, thank you for doing your job, all right, and I'm always, hey, Devin White, Levante David, this, that, whatever, JPP, but I want to give some love to Golston. He's been doing real well, and he showed out this past game, and that was real nice to see. Real nice to see that just everyone's been getting a little bit of action out there.
Yeah, and with a little bit of action, the action that you guys take as listeners, people who like and subscribe and all those things that are very much needed for us to grow at RBLR. One thing, if I could ask you to do maybe new year, new you, new t-shirt. Let's do this. If you go to shop.rblrsports.com, you can check out all of the designs that we have. We are all about our Bucks and Lightning and Rowdies and Rays, and we have shirts in the colors of our favorite sports teams. So hop on. There's a link right in the description. And for all of our listeners, if you use the promo code CANNONS, 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 as in fire the cannons, we're going to give you 10% off your entire purchase. So it helps us out a lot that you like and subscribe, of course. But there are things like the server costs and the website and all the boring things that we don't want to talk about. But we need all those things to keep running and making the content that I hope you love so much. So we love doing it. We want to keep doing it. And if you got a couple bucks, that gift card that you sent from your great aunt, hey man, you can't wear a gift card, but you can wear a T-shirt from RBLR Sports.
Oh, the man said it himself, and I'll also say this. Listen, you can get started on that Christmas list, listeners. All right, and you can put down, hey, grandma or aunt this or that or whatever, uncle this or whatever. I want me some RBLR threads. All right, listen. I got this girl who's who's looking at me here at school here and there, and I'm trying to impress her. So mom, dad, I need some extra cash to buy me some RBLR threads.
You're crazy, dude. Get out of here. All right, let's keep it moving.
But on the real though, but back to business. But not that was business. That's business as well. But speaking of some football business, the time has come. It's another weekend of some Tampa Bay football, and we got the Jets. All right, the Bucs are about 13.5 point favorites. All right, and the first thing that I want to kind of go over is this is honestly, Yuri, I'm just gonna say it to all of our listeners as well. I think this is gonna be rather very similar to this past weekend. We got rookie Wilson versus the GOAT, the legend, Tom Brady. So, that's just one part of the game that I'm just really looking forward to seeing is, how that's going to work out. But, I want to know your overall thoughts, or just maybe if there's anything specifically you wanted to kind of dig deep into regarding this Jets game with our Buccaneers.
Yeah, this is not looking good if you're a fan of the Jets. I mean, look, the Jets are coming off winning the quote unquote toilet bowl, as Katie from across the pond called it when I was a guest on their pod, and I had even said that the Jaguars probably did not want to win that game at all, and even though the players gave it their all, I mean, no player is going to sit there and tank, but look, somehow the Jets won that game. They had 20 players literally on the COVID list. They somehow, they won it because of Zach Wilson running for almost he ran for 91 yards. That's crazy. We haven't seen that in a long, long time. But he only threw for 100 in the air, and we're talking them pulling out a shootout victory against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's just take a look, though. If we take a look at their last three opponents against Jacksonville, they did win, okay? They did win, but they're playing Jacksonville. They still gave up 280 yards to Lawrence in the air. They gave up 132 yards on the ground. Last 2 weeks ago against Miami, they gave up 196 yards to Tua Tagovailoa and 183 on the ground. 3 weeks ago against New Orleans, which is a team we all know is a good measuring stick. We just lost to them. New Orleans was on a 5-game losing streak before playing the Jets. They gave up 175 passing yards to Taysom Hill, and they gave up 203 yards, including 120 yards alone to Alvin Kamara on the ground. So, again, what did I say last week? If you're in the running back room, your ears are perked up. You are watching the film. You are practicing a little pep in your step, because if you're Keshawn Vaughn, if you're Ronald Jones, if you're Le'Veon Bell for sakes here, if you're anybody who's on the practice squad that might even get in the game, because who knows what happens between now and Sunday with COVID, but if you're anybody who's going to have the ball in their hands as a running back, you are salivating at this Jets defense. And part of it is because COVID's running wild over there too. They're starting defensive end, John Franklin Myers. They're starting defensive back, Sherrod Naismond. They're starting defensive lineman, Quinnen Williams. They're starting safety, Ashton Davis. All of these dudes are starters that are on the COVID list for them that are probably not going to play in this game. And guys, like, if you're like, this is going to be another one of, when you look at how what can they do against this Bucs offense that the Panthers weren't able to do, and the Panthers are a markedly better team than the Jets. So it's like, well, if the Bucs play their game, I know last week we kept saying average. If the Bucs just come out and play their average game, not crazy, don't have to be like an A game or whatever, but if they just come out and play their average level of quality, it's going to be more than what Vegas is saying. They're, take the over, take the 13.5 spread, because there's not a lot that the Jets can do that is exploiting a weakness in the Buccaneers. I mean, how do you attack the Buccaneers? In the air. Well, Zach Wilson's more of a running mobile threat. They don't have like these big receiver threats. They don't, I mean, if there's one thing they do well, is that they do spread the ball around to different receivers, so you can't really key in on one or two specific people. But there's not a lot of scary things that we're seeing from the Jets in the last 3 or 4 weeks that's going to key into something they have up the sleeve. Again, I mean, the Buccaneers do give up, mobile quarterbacks. They do give up a lot of yards. Taysom Hill did damage against us, if we're really thinking about Tyler Heineke. But we just saw Cam Newton get shut down. They keyed in on the one threat that the Panthers had, and that's a mobile quarterback, and they dispatched that pretty quickly. So I don't see what Zach Wilson's going to do that Cam Newton wasn't able to do. So I don't want to completely shortchange the Jets, but I have to call it like I see it. And the Bucs are a way better team, and they should absolutely demolish this Jets team. Musab, man, I've been going on and on. What do you see that I'm not seeing? Like, what is it that, what am I missing something here that the Jets bring to the table that the Buccaneers don't already like beat defensively or demolish offensively?
I'm calling it the same way as you said, Eureka. Honestly, the way I really see it is, yeah. I mean, listen, the way we played against the Panthers, I think the Jets are not near the level as the Panthers, and the Panthers aren't even that good. The Jets, I'm gonna say this: someone has to rack up the yards, someone has to toss the balls, someone has to catch it. It don't matter how bad you are, someone has to, do something on that team. So you look at the stat sheet and, okay, Zach Wilson, 2,000 yards, or Elijah Moore, he's racked up like over 500 yards. Well, obviously someone's got to have to do that, but I'm going to say this, I mean, as cocky as it sounds, we're on fire right now. We ran over the Panthers, and it's gonna be a mess for the Jets. Honestly, we're coming at them. All right, I don't see us kind of tapering off for any reason. Maybe in the fourth quarter, if it's really, I mean, if it's as old sunshine and rainbows, if it's like, I don't know, 49 zip, but. Before that, I mean, I really don't. I don't see anything working out. They don't have any threats, any big threats, and exactly what Wilson is a rather he tries to go for that more mobile kind of approach, and it's not going to work out well. Not work, sure, he might be successful here and there, and I'm gonna say this: even when you look at kind of the results or how the Panthers played, okay, yeah, sure, a few guys kind of racked up like. A decent amount of yards. But, I mean, that's because, someone had to again, all right? We're obviously not going to play perfect. Yeah, sure, there's going to be one dude who does something on your team. But when you play for a team like the Panthers or the Jets, it doesn't matter how good you are. You can't save your team, all right? So, listen, it's a locked-in win for us. And I also think that this is going to be our third game in a row that we're not going to allow them to get a touchdown. I really don't think so. Maybe we'll give them a little, like, a nice little go ahead, rack up a touchdown at the end of the season. We're demolishing you. Like, there's 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. But before that, no way, Jose.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at just how the Jets are doing, they're being outscored by 11 points on average. They give up 141 yards on the ground on average. They give up 270 yards in the air on average. So the only way the Jets are going to win is if they have a similar game plan and execution that the Saints had, which is get by the offensive line, find a weakness in the offensive line, and put Brady on the ground. Don't let him get those quick throws off. Don't allow them don't allow the Buccaneers to establish the run. But they haven't stopped anybody yet. I mean, the last 2 wins they have are against the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Houston Texans, and that was 5 weeks ago. So they give up too many points. They don't have a lot of weapons, and at this point, there's really no motivation. Why do the Jets want to win and screw up their good draft pick? Meanwhile, the Buccaneers are in the race for the number 2. And maybe if a couple things happen the wrong way for the Packers or something, maybe the 1 seed is still in play. I mean, it's unlikely, but the Bucs have motivation. They don't have to take this as a bye week. They can absolutely go for it and where the Jets, I mean, if they win, what does that help them in terms of the long term? Unfortunately, as much as the players are going to play, they just don't have the bullets in the gun.
Yeah, and it makes me think, Eureka, if they maybe even have one bullet, and obviously that's not going to save them, and it's just, as I said, sunshine and rainbows. Eureka, do you think that it's finally the time to throw in Kyle Trask?
Absolutely not. 100% no. And here's why. I would say, look, let's not get too crazy. I mean, maybe if we're up 50-0 in the third quarter, who knows, but there's a reason that he is not the number 2 quarterback, and it's, it takes time, and you don't just get playing time. On the Buccaneers, you're not just going to get playing time, even if it's garbage time. So, no. Why break the seal on the Kyle Trask train when he can still hold the clipboard for Gabbard as well?
So what you're saying is break the Trask train seal for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, yeah. Why? Yeah, why? That's a huge moment.
I see what you're saying. No, I mean, hey, listen, it was just. I'm sure all the listeners are all my fellow Trask train fans are all wondering. I mean, when is this guy, gonna get some playing time? But no, I see what you're saying. There's no need to, and yeah, let's just get the win and go home. All right, let's just focus on the big thing, which is the playoffs. Let's play our hearts out there. Let's demolish them. Let's show the league that, listen, we're not just a dependent. We're not starter dependent. All right, we got some very valuable depth pieces, and I think that's what we're gonna do. But that being said, though, I do want to transition and kind of just go over the kind of little injury updates.
Okay.
Godwin out. We got Mike Evans with the COVID protocol. JPP is questionable. All right. Shaq Barrett is, as of right now, he is out. All right. And Winfield, as of right now, we have been told that he is questionable as well. Jamel Dean dealing with an illness/COVID protocols. And along with that, some other COVID protocols. We got Sean Murphy Bunting, Jalen Darden, and Rakeem Nunez Roches. And a quick return update is that Giovanni Bernard is expected to return for the last game. So just as something to consider. Maybe, I don't know, we can get some regular season action from him before the playoffs. I don't know. We'll see what goes on with that. But any out of those, maybe to consider. I mean, obviously, I mean a lot of these guys, obviously Evans, Shaq Barrett, no, Murphy Bunting, no Dean, even Winfield being questionable. I mean, these are all things I'm thinking about as well. But I mean, I want to go over first thoughts for you, Eureka. What are we thinking?
Yeah, it's if we were playing a more consequential opponent, then yeah, we're gonna sit here and nitpick every one of these things. But at the same time, I'm sure that these guys might have other lingering effects that aren't affecting them as much, and so I'm trying to see the silver lining in all this stuff. Is that this is another week that Fournette's not getting hit. It's another week that Mike Evans isn't getting hit, and I'm hoping that COVID isn't really ravaging their life. I hope that they're all doing well and recovering phenomenally. So, I mean, really, the big one that's on the list to me is head coach Bruce Arians, just because of. I mean, I would hope that the kind of coach that we're being told that Bruce Arians is that he's giving agency to his coordinators so that the game planning and everything, and I'm sure he's in on a Zoom call. I'm sure he's got his finger on the pulse of what's going on. But with all this, I'm hoping that the silver lining is that these guys are getting healthy in other areas, not just recovering from COVID. So when they come back, they are refreshed. Maybe there's a little bit of rust to knock off in the last week of the season, but again, that's against the Carolina Panthers. So here we go. Yeah, it's all full steam ahead for the playoffs. Now it's just really stay healthy. Please, stay away. Don't be on the COVID list for the next 2 weeks. Get what you have to get and get ready for the playoffs. So I would love to have Levante David and Jamel Dean and Sean Murphy Bunting and Fournette and Evans and all these guys. But if there was an area of time that they could take a couple weeks off and it wouldn't really hurt us too much, I mean, even if they lost the next couple games, is it really going to affect their I mean, they won the South, so they're in the playoffs. So now it really is just who are we playing, and some of that's not even up to us. Even if we win out and we're the number 2 seed, it takes a lot. There's a lot of playoff scenarios for so many teams that are still trying to get in. So with all that said, it's kind of like we can't control the chaos. We can only control what we can do, and hopefully that we end up healthier and better after all these things. So
I'm right there with you. I mean, maybe this is just some time to take advantage of for these kind of people who are sitting out right now and injured, just to rest up and stuff like that. No need to push it at all. But I do want to push on the next thing, which is our Mr. Fantasy. So, Eureka, who is your Mr. Fantasy?
I absolutely think this is going to be a Ronald Jones game. If he's playing and he's getting the ball, he's going to go over 100 yards rushing this game. I mean, this is the final couple weeks of fantasy football. Start Ronald Jones. Get him in the lineup. They're going to feed him the rock. He's going to have a steady stream of carries as long as he's healthy, and we don't have any reports that he's not. So he's going to get the bulk of the carries, and he's going to stuff it down everyone's throats. Is he going to get 120 like Alvin Kamara did without breaking any big runs? No, but he's going to have 20 to 30, 20, 25 carries, and if he gets 4 yards a carry, he's going to be close to 100, if not breaking it over. So that's my Mr. Fantasy. Rojo, let's go.
Well, as I have been kind of rocking with him in the past, but I'm gonna say, instead of Defensive Player of the Year candidate, I'm gonna go with D-line of the Year candidate, and that's our Bucks D-line. They've been on fire, and I think that's who my Mr. Fantasy is gonna be. And I want to say that I think everyone's going to be getting a little bit of some of this Jets action, and kind of just really similar to this Panthers game. That's kind of the way I just wanted to simplify it. Is just I think our defense is going to show out like they did against the Carolina Panthers, and that's all there really is to it.
Well, I guess with all that said, let's get into game predictions.
All right. Well, for me, my game prediction is I think it's going to be mad dominant. I said it before. I don't see them scoring a touchdown. Last week I said 24-3, but I'm gonna kind of give it a little boost, and I'm gonna go with 35-3. All right.
Mm.
What about you, Eureka? What are we feeling?
I actually gave them a couple more points, and I think when it's all said and done, I mean, I want to think that this is a game that the Bucs can score over 40 points. I really, really think that that's on the table. However, they might take their foot off the gas. So I think my score is going to be 38-13. Obviously a win. Fire the cannons. Let's go.
All right. I like it. I like it. Well, is there anything else you kind of want to add on? Like kind of last thoughts about this upcoming Jets game. Anything you maybe just something to consider, something to look out for.
I'm trying to be cautious here because we get pretty cocky sometimes when we're like, oh, there's absolutely no way. I just don't see it with this game, this particular game. I want to give them credit where credit is due, but It's more about the quality of play of the Buccaneers than it is like, oh, these guys are just horrible. Like I'm not saying that, but I am saying that there is in all three phases of the game, there is a noticeable difference in quality. So there's a reason why we're the NFC South champs and they're fighting for the top lottery pick, right? So the only thing I'm going to say is that I appreciate everyone that's listening to us. They've spent about an hour of their time. Thank you for listening to us on your work break or your work commute or if you're in the gym, like wherever you're listening to us. Thank you so much. For free, if there's one thing you could do that's absolutely free and helps us out so much, if you're on Spotify, if you're on Google Podcasts, if you're on Apple Podcasts, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Share this with your friends. Those are the things that you can do to absolutely help us grow and help us continue to give you this 5-star content, this A+ content that we hope we are giving you and that we love giving you every single week. So please, if you're on social media, we are at RBLR Sports. Hit that follow button. You guys know what it is, but thank you to all of our listeners. That is what I have to say this week. What about you, my friend? I am excited. My favorite part of the week is getting ready for that Musab landing at the end of our podcast. So fire away, big guy.
Here comes the Musab landing. Here it goes. Well, Chapter 16 is upcoming here, listeners. And I want to call this week where the Jets have a lot of regrets. Well, at least the big regret being that they allowed the Buccaneers to even be on their schedule because it's showtime, and I think it's gonna be real fun. Honestly, I really do think so. Wherever you're listening to this, I hope you're fired up. I really do think so. And listen, we got another 1 p.m. game just like last week. It was 1 p.m. Well, hey, we're running it back. Another 1 p.m. game. We're going to be up in New York. Our 11-4 play the 4-11 Jets. And all I really got to say is just have some fun with it. All right? We're coming towards playoff time. It's the regular season. We looking real good. We're dominant. We're hot. Shout out to all of our Buccaneers. And most importantly, shout out to all y'all our fans. And with that being said, stay fired up. Get ready for the action. And as always, go Bucs.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.